here in the city of canals. No, we're not back in Amsterdam. We're in Venice.
We are spending 72 hours here in the city of Venice on a budget. We're going to show you everything that we see and do, and we're staying somewhere pretty unique, but more on that later because right now we're going to go explore the city. Alright guys, first things first, transportation. Now in Venice there are two main ways to get around. First one, boats, because obviously there are plenty of canals. Even the ambulances are boats. Second one is walking. Now we're currently making our way to St. Mark's Square. There were two options. We could catch the ferry, we could walk. The ferry one-way ticket was €9.50 each. So because we're on a budget, we're walking. It's only a little over 2 kilometers though. Not too bad. Sustenance.
Wash dropped it, so it's all blues.
Guys, a really cool thing about Venice is that because there are so many alleyways and canals, even in peak tourist season, you can find spots just to yourself. What? Oh no. This particular alleyway is bringing me back to when we were in Prague and we went to the world's thinnest street. This is a lot more spacious, but it's just bringing me back. If you haven't seen that video, have a look up there. It was a pretty cool one. And a real benefit to walking, other than saving money, is that you get to explore things that you might otherwise not see and other tourists might not see either because everyone's on the ferry. And that's why I think it's so quiet. Guys, another benefit to walking your way through the streets of Venice rather than getting the public transport is that you stumble across these hidden gems. And we stumbled across a place called Bucintoro. I'm sorry if I didn't say that right. I think it's a place where the locals go. It doesn't really seem like a tourist trap, and it looked like they had homemade cannoli. So I picked up the tiramisu flavour. It's very early for cannoli, but I suppose it's never too early for cannoli in Venice. It's super sweet. That's good. I mean, it'd be better if I didn't have 2 donuts for breakfast, but that's good. Venice is just so pretty. Like you're walking down the alleyways and the alleyway will lead to a cute little square. It's like, as the saying goes, like there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Well, in Venice, there's always a square at the end of an alleyway. Stace, that's what you look like when you came out of the shower this morning.
Guys, I need to wash my hands. Can I hurry up?
Alright, we have now made it to the Grand Canal. It is grand, alright, in all the right ways. I'm blown away by Venice. I've been here before, that was in winter, and it was super pretty then. But I think that this is the prettiest place we've been to, in my opinion. So, there are 4 bridges that cross the Grand Canal. We are on the Rialto bridge, which is probably the most famous because it is the oldest and it's lined with shops that you can see behind me. It's definitely a must visit when you're in Venice, and the best thing is that it's free, unless you buy stuff from the shops, which is very, very tempting.
Guys, we have made it to Piazza San Marco, aka St. Mark's Square. This is the main square here in Venice, and it is fairly large, as you can see. A number of key sites here in this area. San Marco is where a lot of tourists would spend most of their time here in Venice. Now in the square itself there are a number of key sites to see. The clock tower over there, which dates back to the 15th century, and you might be thinking that's pretty old, but St. Mark's Basilica right behind me is actually even older, dating back to the 9th century AD, so that's pretty crazy. And here as well we've got this very big tower. Oh, there is a bee on the lens. It's gone now, but we've got the Campanile, which is this very big tower. So a lot to do in and around Piazza San Marco, but we're going to explore.
And guys, the exterior of St. Mark's Basilica is so pretty. Look at all those colours and the detail in those pictures. St. Mark's Square is absolutely huge. It's lined with arcades on the sides, little shops, restaurants. It's a pretty cool place and it gets pretty damn busy. And guys, right here in St. Mark's Square, you can find the oldest cafe in all of Italy, Cafe Florian. It is the oldest continually operated coffee house in the entire world, and it opened in 1720. Wow. Now, we're unfortunately not going to be dining in there. The cheapest coffee that you can get is unfortunately 13 euros, which is probably going to be more than what Stace and I spend together on lunch. Bit out of our budget, but it is still cool to come and look at. It's very pretty. They have live, I would say, orchestra, because there was a pianist, a violinist, and an accordion player. It's pretty cool.
Guys, and one of the best budget meal options here in Venice is pasta on the go, and Dal Moro's is one of the most famous places here for that. We picked up some pasta on the go, 15 euro for both of us. We both added Parmigiano. It's pretty good. I think one was 7 euro, one was 8 euro. I've gone with the Napolitana, Rosh's gone with the pesto. You pick your pasta and then you pick your sauce. So there's also extra toppings you can add as well. So it's a win-win. We're gonna give this a go. Guys, this looks pretty incredible. That's pretty delicious. You get a really hefty serving of parmesan. It's not like at home where you're like, a little bit more. Decent serving. The sauce is super fresh. The pasta is super fresh. And it's easy. We can eat as we explore.
That's some of the best pesto I've ever had.
Look at me wearing my backpack.
We have come to the famous bookshop here in Venice, known for keeping its books in gondolas, bathtubs, and for a pretty unique staircase at the back, which leads you to a pretty cool view of the canals.
It's pretty cool in here.
And I believe the reason why some of the books are stored in bathtubs and gondolas is in preparation for when it floods, the books are preserved and it all just floats. Very clever. I have just made Stace walk ages in the sweltering heat just to see this bridge, this one very specific bridge. Now you might be wondering what makes this bridge so special, and the reason why is because it is one of only 2 bridges in all of Venice that doesn't have those side rails, no side walls. So it's one of the oldest bridges. This is what they used to look like hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Apparently it's a private bridge. I didn't realise that until we got here, so we're not going to go on it all the way, but was it worth coming to? Pretty special bridge. I think she really liked it. So generally the gondola rides range between 80 to 100 euro, which, I mean, I don't even have to say it, it's out of our budget. But there is a way to get on a gondola ride, albeit very short. The Traghetto!
Even though it's short, definitely worth the 2 euro. And after our 5-second ride, we say goodbye to our Traghetto, which is crossing back across with a full group of people. Now, when you look at the prices, don't get too excited when you see the 70 cents. That is for locals only, but still for 2 euro, if you want to ride in a traditional gondola, that's your best bet. And as we mentioned earlier, there are only 4 bridges that cross the Grand Canal, which doesn't sound like a lot given it's called the Grand Canal. And that's why the Traghetto were kind of invented, was to find another way to get people from one side to the other. So it is a very short ride, but if you are nowhere near a bridge, look for one of the Traghetto signs. It costs you 2 euro each. Straight across to the other side, great views of the canal, can take some photos and can say you've ridden on a traditional Venetian gondola. And the gondolas for the Traghetto do differ slightly from your normal gondolas in that they can carry up to 12 people, and they do actually have 2 people steering the gondola as it is constantly turning back and forth.
And if you're wondering if Venice has those accessible free water fountains like Rome does, the answer would be yes. Alright guys, we are back at St. Mark's Square. We have walked through the square, leaving St. Mark's Basilica behind us, out to this kind of port area. It is crazy busy today, it is a Saturday. Super packed, but it's a really nice spot. You've got the buildings lining the coast and then the water and the gondolas opposite. It's kind of reminding me a little bit of Amsterdam, a little bit. Obviously this canal is like ginormous, but it's definitely a spot many people visit. A lot of restaurants, a lot of shops. And I believe the water behind me is where the Grand Canal ends and kind of meets the ocean. So no wonder it's huge. Buildings on the coast are painted different colors, just like your typical Italian seaside. It's very pretty.
Guys, behind me is the Doge's Palace, which is a palace built in Venetian Gothic style, so it's quite unique. It used to serve as the seat of government and a palace of justice, and now it is a museum. When you tour inside the palace, there is a bridge that you can cross called the Bridge of Sighs, and this was the bridge that prisoners would cross before their execution, and they'd get one final view over Venice, which is pretty interesting.
And if you walk about 2 minutes away from St. Mark's Square, you can come to Ponte di Canonica, which I think is Canonica Bridge. And that, right there in the distance, is the Bridge of Sighs. So this is where you can come to have a look at that bridge without paying entrance into Doge's palace. Budget for the win!
While most people refer to Venice as the island, Venice is actually built upon 118 different islands which are connected by over 400 bridges. And these islands are all located within the Venetian lagoon, which sits just off mainland Italy. Venice is made up of a bunch of different neighbourhoods, also referred to as sestieri, and San Marco, which is the neighbourhood we're in at the moment, is the one that tourists spend the most time in. So there are a number of neighbourhoods or sestieri where there are a number of tourist spots and different kind of sights to see, and then there are some which are more where the locals live and are a bit more untouched.
Something else you will find in St. Mark's Square are these 3 ship mast-like poles in front of St. Mark's Basilica. Now I did a bit of reading, and usually there are 3 flags on these poles: the Venetian flag, the Italian flag, and the European flag. However, there's no flags on them today, and I can't figure out why. I googled it, no idea. It's just interesting. I also read from a few sources that they are original ship masts, and then another source said that they were ship-like masts, so I'm not sure if they used to be on a ship. Either way, they're ginormous and pretty cool. And as you leave St. Mark's Square walking towards the sea, what you'll find are 2 huge columns, one with a lion on it with wings, the other with a man and a dragon. Now apparently very few Venetians walk through these columns, in between these columns, due to superstition, a very long superstition. Now what I read was that originally, ages ago, when they were bringing these columns to Venice, they were meant to be 3. And the 3rd one lasted the entire journey, but when I got here, it rolled off the boat into the lagoon, and apparently it was just like swallowed by the lagoon. They looked for it for 20 years, never found. I think a few years later there was a period where there were some gambling tables in between the columns, but then what I think seems to be the main cause of the superstition is that in between those 2 columns was a spot for public executions, and that is why you won't find many Venetians walking through those 2 columns. Dark history. And guys, I was just walking towards the columns to get some better close-up shots, and I found myself diverting away from the middle of the column, so I didn't have to walk from the middle of in between the 2 columns, so I didn't have to walk between, because of the superstition I read moments ago. It does not take much to mess with this little brain. Don't walk between them. I left Stace sitting alone off in the shade. Hopefully she's okay.
Hi. You okay? Guys, I think my body's done with the heat. I think I need a cool change. I'm just not coping anymore.
Guys, we just stumbled across a place called Farini. It's a restaurant that sells a number of things: pizza, Aperol spritz, focaccia. The pizza is really cheap. You get 2 slices for $4.30, or 1 huge slice that they cut in half. We made the mistake of getting 2 servings, far too much food, but it's really nice. They make the pizza fresh right there, so you can actually stand there and watch them make it.
Guys, it came straight out of the oven, so it's nice and hot and fresh.
And the coffees there seemed really cheap too. €1.10, very, very affordable. So if you're on a budget like us, perfect place to stop for some lunch. Something else I would recommend doing when you come to Venice is going up to the rooftop of Fondaco Dei Tedeschi shopping centre. This is a completely free experience, so whether you're on a budget or not, definitely worth doing, because they offer 360 views of Venice, and apparently they're some of the best views of Venice in the entire city. The only catch is you have to book online, and you have to book online fast. We did not book online, and it's booked out until like weeks in advance, so unfortunately we can't go up, but I don't want you to miss out on it. So definitely book in advance if you're going to Venice. And Fondaco Dei Tedeschi, I hope I'm saying that right, is just before the Rialto bridge if you're coming from the San Marco Square direction. As you guys know, we're on a very strict budget, given that we're trying to travel full-time for 12 months. That means that we can't do everything that we would like to do in cities. Something that I really wanted to do here was get on a boat and go to one of the other islands nearby. It's called Burano. It's known for its like really colourful fishing huts and houses, that kind of line canals, very picturesque, really pretty. It would have cost us €19 each, to go there on the ferry, and it just would have pushed us over what we'd allocated for our time in Venice, which is really unfortunate, but it's something I would definitely recommend doing if you can. The other island that I was keen on going to was Murano. I'm really sorry if I'm not pronouncing these properly. It's up there with Burano in that it's one of the most popular islands visited. It's known for its glass making, which is something that heaps of people come to watch when they come to Venice. Alright, I think it's about time I take you to our accommodation, but first we gotta walk up all these stairs. And this is our little accommodation. We opted to stay on the mainland rather than on the island of Venice. We're at this little camping ground that offers space for tents, motorhomes, and then a little chalet, which is what we've gone with. It's literally just this little shack with 2 beds in it. We don't really need much more. It was only around 56 Australian dollars a night. Budget living. It has shared facilities like the showers, toilets, I think some washing area as well, more so for dishes than for clothes. But we found it pretty good, especially for the price that we paid. We can't complain. To Venice by bus. It only costs €3 for a return trip each, so that's pretty affordable. It's literally only 10 minutes. I really rate the location, and if you're okay with staying in a little shack that can get surprisingly cold at night even though it's so hot during the day, I'd recommend. Some of the downsides would be the number of mosquitoes. Obviously there's going to be a lot of them when you're in a camping ground. During the day it can get really, really hot. There's no fan or air conditioning in the room. And then we have the opposite problem, as I said before, at night it can actually get really, really cold, and we didn't bring any winter clothes with us, so it's been a bit of a struggle overnight at times. The other issue as well is that there is a little, like a 2-minute walk away. That's great, but other than that, not a lot around. So we're happy to go into Venice to go get food because that's what you come here for. But if you are looking for restaurants nearby, other than the restaurant that's at the camping ground, which is actually really affordably priced, there's not a lot. And it only takes us 10 minutes on the bus to get back to Venice Island. For dinner we have come to Baci and Pasta. It's another quick, easy, fast pasta on the go place. We got the gnocchi, let's give it a go.
Nothing beats a good gnocchi. Guys, every day we have walked, well, every day, we've been here 2 days, but we've walked past this spot quite a few times in those 2 days. Every time it has a massive line. And now look, it kind of goes against our belief policy in terms of what is a traditional gelato, in that it is built up quite high. But given the lines, we felt like we just had to try it and give it a go. So I think it was $2.50 each, so not too bad. We got 1 scoop each, pretty good. Okay guys, that ends our time here in Venice on a budget. Let's check out what we spent. How do you think we did? We think we did pretty well. I was hesitant to put in the numbers because open yourself up to judgment. I think you can always do it cheaper. We stress about that a lot, but I actually think we did pretty well for Venice, which is quite an expensive place to visit. Let us know what you think. Have you got any other tips on saving money in Venice or other cities in the world? And make sure you stick around for the next video because we head to our next Italian city tomorrow. Bye!